Okay. Tonight we've got somebody very, very unusual to evaluate. I hate the word examine, in terms of the work she has done to qualify her as a successful candidate to continue her studies after the advanced, if she so wishes, and I hope she does. Coral and I were assigned to her as trainers, but Sonja, as you will soon discover, that her talent is in the area of creative writing and poetry. Because she's Afrikaans speaking, and we started off on the clinical side, which was going to be my side, and the workshop was going to be Coral's side. I did share a session or two with Coral, and that was given in Afrikaans. But a process started operating where, with Coral's permission, I took over the entire process, and I'll tell you why. Mainly, and this is the main reason, is that Sonja's portrayal of her life story via logotherapy was given through poems written in Afrikaans. And they are of such in-depth anyway, that if you are not very familiar with the language, the meaning is going to escape you. And that is why I felt I will continue with her. And what in fact happened, that after she did 5 clinical sessions, the last of which was a request from her that I be the logotherapist in a session with her. And I sensed in that, as I did also through her sessions before, that Sonja was seeking her own path. And it was a very important process to go through. But it wasn't just a personal exploration, because as that 5th session revealed, that I did with her, and she then had to analyze that session, like she would any other session. Hi, Sean. Like she would do any other session. And I was just saying that Sonja had done 4 clinical sessions, but because she was moving in Afrikaans, Coral, who was the co-trainer, we decided that the process will go on with me, because she expresses herself through poetry, which, if you are not familiar with Afrikaans, it's going to be lost on you. So I thought, especially after the 5th session, which was what Sonja asked me to conduct with her as a client, and she had to give feedback, I was bowled over. Absolutely bowled over with her depth of insight into the process that transpired over that session. That my comment to her was that there is a potential great logotherapist waiting to blossom. And that blossoming started then, which could be seen as a workshop, but then intertwined with clinical work. And I am so grateful to be able to share with you this, and I want to discuss it with all our trainers, how to let a student walk his or her own unique path, still within the structure of the clinical and the workshop leg and the requirements of the entire course, but threading their way through it very uniquely. And I've already found that there are those with clinical inclinations that would do workshops that wouldn't be really so much on the workshop side as a therapeutic group that they would actually undertake as a workshop. So that's just one example. But now coming back to Sonja, I suggested to her, knowing and realizing that she is in this deep path of inner exploration, that through her logotherapy, that she should try and put her poems into therapeutic themes, logotherapeutic themes, to show the correlation between the two. And what she did, and what she's going to present tonight, and what she called, it's really a project, which is a clinical project called A Way of Life, where she uses, uniquely, she took the chapters of Man's Search for Ultimate Meaning, the headings of those chapters she used to then present this journey of self-exploration, which I just want to tell you why she named it, why she used the A Man's Search for Ultimate Meaning, because she said her writings appears to be some means to some unknown end. And that unknown end was really to discover the other not only just in the person of a client, for example, but very much that she expressed in this poem that sorry, Coral, but it's very short, where she just, you spoke about logotherapy being a Socratic dialogue. And this is really a Socratic dialogue, but with an in her search through logotherapy, reaching out as an I to the thou. And the exploration of this connection. And she called, this is just a few lines out of a poem she wrote. Ek is ek, en jy is ek. Translated, it means, I am I, and you are me. Ek wonder wie is jy, die ander ek. I wonder who you are, the other me. Ek wonder waarvoor jy, die ander ek, wonder wie is ek en wie is jy. Wow, that she's wondering whether the other I, the projected I into the thou, if the thou is also wondering who she is, and, seeking that deep Socratic connection. And this she did through her work that I want her to present tonight. I just want to say this to put you into the context, and then we'll listen to Sonja. But what she concluded is so terrific, and Carol, that's why I want to read it while you're here. She said, quoting one of my quotes, "The search for meaning in life is an expression of man's search for ultimate meaning, and actually for the ultimate meaning of our own lives. Something that, because of its ultimate nature, if found, floods all of life with meaning." In other words, this is the meaning, the connection, the flow that she was looking for in herself. And she said, my writing, the focus seems to be a means to some unknown end. And that's so wonderful, where Frankel said, to be an open vessel, forever reaching out, forever growing, forever moving closer in a more refined relationship of an I towards a thou, which also shows itself in our ability to really love and to interact with another human being in the grasp of their uniqueness, which is love. And whereas she then takes the journey from a place of being under critical scrutiny and then the tremendous hurt of being rejected for somebody else, that taking that thread in all her magnificent poems, I can't tell you, it kind of provoked my own poetry as I wrote back to her. I almost wrote like poetry because that's the way she speaks. But she came to this conclusion in the very end. And just listen to this. Now, Coral, I'm so sorry. She's describing this in Afrikaans. And it's so beautiful. I have to read it in Afrikaans. But what it is really saying is that there was a release into freedom. And it was the release into freedom that allowed her to drop the baggage of that terrible past negative experiences that she then no longer saw as part of her past. That she put it where it belonged, at the agents of hurt. That was their problem and their accountability, and she took her freedom. And so I just want to read this in Afrikaans, and then Sonja, you will talk to us. Rondom vryheid, rondom vrede. And she was saying freedom, around freedom, like it is around this final rest of the heart. Man's heart is restless until. Rondom vryheid, rondom vrede. Vryheid, iets wat met jou gebeur. Die deur van jou hart, jou binneste oopgemaak. 'n losmaking. 'n onderskeidingsvermoë, wysheid, sagtheid, 'n nuwe wese na vore. Dit dring jou om ontslae te raak van alles wat knou. Jy kan nie anders as om alles wat jou beset te maak, af te gooi nie. Jy weet ook onmiddellik dat dit is wat beset en besete maak, die vreemde verskynsel is. This, in other words, whatever was giving her a sense of bondage was actually a sense of madness, was something foreign to who she really is. Dit is eers die vryheid, dan die afgooi. First the freedom, and then casting away the baggage. In other words, it's almost like the biblical saying, what have I got any more to do with these negative things in my life? Dan 'n onomwonde ligtheid, a freedom of a lightness of being, 'n ongekendheid, something unknown and so beautiful, wat alle verstand te bowe gaan, that goes beyond knowing. It's so great. Nie andersom nie. Jy is nie lig en vry omdat jy afgegooi het nie. Jy is vry. Daarom gooi jy af. Oh my word. And this to me is such a description of a true logotherapeutic transformation. And why I then thought that this is a workshop as much as it is a clinical therapy with herself, much like Freud did. He did his own psychoanalysis. This is how he discovered psychoanalysis. And what a unique journey for Sonja to through her own analysis of herself, come to this healing. This is something unique and very, very extraordinary. Jy's vry, daarom gooi jy af. Verlos. I'm being redeemed. I've been set free. Maar oop en weerloos. But open and vulnerable. And to me, I can tell you, it's my experience in Israel here, with all the deaths of soldiers and of our hostages that we have to bear. There's virtually a funeral every day, that we stand at this highest peak of human greatness, which Frankl described as that surrender to the ultimate that floods all of your life with meaning. It's a state of vulnerability. It's a state of openness that's lost its selfishness and its hostility and its competitiveness and its bitterness, all of that gone. And self-elevation. And the protection of self by trying to elevate the self to be better than others or to make your mark and to plan your life. You're left with a vulnerability like our soldiers that for the sake of the existence of their people willingly go into battle and lay down their lives. Such vulnerability is the highest peak of spiritual maturity, I can tell you. And this is what she had discovered. Daar is nie meer 'n self om te bevredig nie. There's no longer a me that is needy and that needs to be satisfied. En met eens vind jy die verskil tussen selfbevrediging en vrede. At last you see the difference between self-satisfaction and peace. Peace with yourself, where the struggle is over, but you're vulnerable. And there's a further search that never ends, that goes even beyond the grave. Like Frankl said, we're only fully ourselves at the last moment of our lives. This is, it's an ongoing process. En dan, die oefen van om die vind in woorde te skep. And then, this is her mission, that she then say, to exercise or express this finding of meaning in words. And she then said what is the very aim of our training, when she said, I've forgotten let me just see. I need to, here. Just listen to this. In doing this assignment, I realized more than ever that logotherapy's healing through meaning is the one thing necessary for living a wide awake, aware, and responsible life. Logotherapy's aim is to assist us to translate the wisdom of our hearts into living life the way we are meant to live. Well, the unconscious God made conscious. Logotherapy can help. Perhaps logotherapy acts as the giver or the vessel through which the giver gives. Oh my God. Do we as logotherapists have meaning in life? Do we know how to translate this wisdom of our own hearts into our own lives? We cannot give what we do not have. We can only see in others what we have first seen in ourselves. I was not told by traditions and values what I should do, only what I am not allowed to do. The what must I do, what should I do, were graces received at unexpected times. Like Frankel said, there's meaning awaiting us around every corner. And the most glorious thing which we want our students to achieve is to come into the meaning of the moment, which is not to be have anticipatory anxiety and therefore try and plan our lives or build defenses around us and cling to the past, but we're in the moment. And this is where a logotherapist should be, so in the moment with a client, so open that you can see and experience the uniqueness of the other. So as far as I'm concerned, Sonja has done a most magnificent advanced course. There is no way to give her a percentage mark. Absolutely no way. So please, Sonja, over to you now.
Thank you, Teria. I do appreciate your words and for opening this door to me to write to write for you. Let me just share my screen. Can you all see this?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So some of the words, Teria, you did a fantastic job of my presentation. Thank you. Your summary is almost my presentation, so that is fantastic. Thank you so much for that. It's really an honor to have been on the receiving end of your words and your wisdom. Thank you for that. And I think, Teria, you might have also recognized the title of my assignment, A Way of Life. It was a few words in one sentence that you wrote in your book that I've referenced in this assignment. And as Teria said, I've also started with the special quotation from your book that you have read previously. And for me, the search for meaning, my writing is this expression that Teria mentioned. And the Afrikaans word soektocht actually describes it very well. It's a search, but also a journey.
Yes.
Not a frantic search, but just a journey search. So in my assignment, I've actually placed or juxtaposed my creative writing underneath or within logotherapy's overarching tenet. Man is not he who poses the question, what is the meaning of life, but he who is asked this question. For it is life itself that poses it to him. And man has to respond by being responsible. So in my assignment, I translated the language of a spiritual journey, my creative writing, into the language of a logotherapeutic journey. And as Teria mentioned, as scaffolding, I lean on Frankel's man's search for ultimate meaning. And then I complemented each chapter's essence with a choice of creative writing. A caution that I gave myself while I was doing this course, or this assignment, and this course actually, was not to plug my creative writing into logotherapeutic theory, or the other way around, not to plug logotherapeutic theory into my creative writing, because creative writing, life in a sense, experiences are non-conceptual experiences, and to put a conceptual value on it is taking away the mystery of life, the mystery of writing. So my hope is that through my writing that you might not only sense or understand with your heart, with your mind, my understanding of a search for ultimate meaning, but listen, intuit between the words, the unconscious spirit, the mystery present in writing. Words, Coral, followed me my whole life. There was a time that I stopped writing. I've written for many years and then I stopped writing for a specific reason. But my writing stayed with me in my bones. Vervolgwoorde. Woorde gaan dood, word weergebore, aangeraak, 'n ego-roep geskenk, ontwaak, vry van gees, 'n tussenwerpsel, bevang in die hede, van buig die knie, heilig wagtend van wees, om op te staan, verheerlik te word. Woorde gaan weer dood, om vervolg te word. Right, so this will be the format of my presentation. I will do a little bit of English, presenting the theory of logotherapy, and then follow it with a writing piece of two. And you're welcome to interrupt me with anything that if you need some clarification. My presentation is not very long.
Sonja, if I may interrupt you at this stage,
Yes.
Absolutely unbelievable, but I'm going to leave the unbelievable for the end. When you say the spiritual journey goes, just go back to the previous slide, please. When you talk about the language of the spiritual journey, and I'm presuming that we're talking about your human spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct in
Yes.
saying that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
yes.
you.
My human. Yes. Expressed via writing, but it's
Right.
my journey. It
It's your
could have
journey.
been, yeah, it's a journey, yes, as spirit.
No, that's fine. I just
Yes.
want to understand that.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Yes. Thank you for asking. I do appreciate that. The words of Pierre Tyler Desjardins, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, Sean, echo the essence of logotherapy. From the viewpoint of our spirituality, we experience our humanness, our response to life. However, and I found that the word however was not typed in Frankel's books, but it was there in every chapter, almost in every page. I really had to, I must tell you maybe at this point that I didn't trust Frankel. I didn't trust his theory. And I thought to myself, I want to get behind his sayings. I don't know what he's saying. What is he writing? And so I really scrutinized this book, Man's Search for Ultimate Meaning, for this assignment as well. However, he says, the I in me that responds to life is not mechanically or ego-driven. The I in me is guided by itself, conscious of itself. And as Terea quoted that little poem that I wrote, Wie is ek, wie is jy? I think it was one of the first poems I wrote in my life. I might have been 7 or 8 years old. From an early age, I was really very small. I was not even in school yet. I heard this call of this unknown I. And it confronted me. I didn't know who it was. I didn't know where it come from. I didn't know where is it going to take me in a depth, in an expanse. And as we know in our logotherapeutic journey, exploring the self and delving into its nature underpin the core of all spiritual about our human condition. And this exploring the self and delving into its nature also describes a spiritual journey that spanned my whole life. The words that follow in the next poem glimpse an invisible thread through the dark and the deep. Umbra nihili, under the cloud umbrella of nothingness. 'n Verborgenheid, baar tog hierdie agtervolging se soekroep, wie is ek, wie is jy? 'n Soeke verswelg in die buik diep van donker, ademloos verwagtend, met 'n lewe van inhou. Ek lees die stories van jou geliefdes, Abraham, Moses, Dawid, Johannes en my pa, en vra, waar is jou geliefde vroue? Stil in die woestynskadu van beloof, vind ek al, barend. Heling vanuit 'n ander aard, wanneer die logos woord na jou toe kom, ongefilter, rou as moeder, verwagtend bied te baar wat die diep bewoord, dan begin die onderdompelde, onverwags, die swem na bo.
Oh. Well,
I'm losing my little arrow here.
let me just comment there, that logos that comes to us, the call, that awakens that response from deep within us. It's incredible. Yeah.
To reiterate, if we are spiritual beings having a human experience, then it follows that the origin of life is spirit. Is this spirit consciousness or unconsciousness? If we view spirituality as the self's consciousness open towards a reality beyond the ego needs, what happens to this self's consciousness? If this spirit in its origin is unconscious, how does the self not only experience but also embodies its origin? What befalls the I, guided by itself, conscious of itself? When life's everyday moments beg to be seen, maybe something that I've seen outside or something that I've read, then I word stitch them together to make sense of their meaning. In ons einde is ook ons begin. Met rukwind verwyder uit die platvloers van tyd, met eens gestroop van gister, is die blind soekende onbeskaamd gebloot en laat opstaan, lig en verlig. Het ek genoeg loof om te oop, dit wat jy uitasem nodig te ontgin, jou bronaar grensloos. Ek trek die dun epidermis af met nerfgeknipte vingernaels en soek onder die oogglas lewe, genome van gister, en antwoorde word vrae en antwoorde ineengevleg. 'n Soet nagmaalsbrood ontvang, te herken die belofte, ontbloot tussen uitroep, teken, beletsel, gekoppeld. 'n Beweeg, jy raak my aan, en ink skets nagtelike wakker word drome, terwyl jou asem lig en warm, my leeg bewaak vir die nog onbekende wees. It was a challenge to decide what to choose, because I've given Teria in my assignment quite a few more samples of my writing, but in the end I've just decided that it is what it is, and my caution that I stated in the beginning of not plugging in experiences into logotherapy and vice versa is to see what happens, what unfolds, a weaving of perhaps dichotomies that come together. Frankl says the following words in his next chapter, and he reminds us, let me just see if I'm at the, he says the following words, where the spiritual self steeps itself in its unconscious depths, there occur the phenomena of conscience, love, and art. And when I saw this sentence, I was like, thank you so much, Teria, for allowing me to do this writing assignment, because it's art. And I've never allowed myself to showcase any of my writings because my writings were private, and it was private. So this is my first opportunity of just bringing to the fore something that happened in the unconscious depths of a spirit. So conscious love and art are intuitive capacities, non-rational intuitive capacities. And conscience feels its way into the unconscious, and on its return bears a knowing of what ought to be. Love transcends being alive to truly living. The artist's inspiration and creation reveal a belonging to a world of unconscious depths and heights, waiting to be illumined. What then is the goal of logotherapy? Logotherapy challenges us to trust the hidden unconscious voice, and then it asks for a will to transform this unconscious potential into a conscious act. But, Franco, thank you very much for your words, to do so for no other reason than to restore it eventually as an unconscious habit. Growing holds its own time, from unconscious potential to a conscious act, back to a conscious habit, asks for transformation. It asks or needs not only a self conscious of itself, but it also needs a self willing to lose itself.
Wow.
So the following piece of writing is, I love Meister Eckhart's words and writings. He was a German priest, theologian, philosopher, and a mystic. And he said the following. A person works in a stable. That person has a breakthrough. What does he do? He returns to work in the stable. Dis die terugkeer na die stal wat braak se vel se niks se hart lank van stil aanvaar, versag verlewe. Saaier, kom saai, kom vind jou erf tussen rotse, dorings teer en hart van leef. Klotse oopgebreek, verwagtend, verbydroog. Die lang wag van niks doen, die lang wag van oopgebloot, na die sterre, na die son, die wind, die weer, voete wat oor jou loop, jou oper alle oper, verkruis gespalk, verlies deurboor. Wat het gebeur? Agter klip, tussen kruis en opstanding. Frankel reminds us that the goal of logotherapy is to make conscience both instinctual and spiritual experiences. Healing through meaning includes bringing to consciousness and responsibleness meaning in the spiritual unconscious dream world, the meaning hidden in the spiritual unconscious dream world. In this section, I'm cautious to apply Frankel's virtue of objectivity. For most of my life, I possessed dreams and dreams possessed me. From an early age, I had my first significant dream from very young, and this specific dream and many other dreams appear and reappear in my life. The border between the instinctual and the spiritual remained blurred for many years. So if dreams are the language of the spiritual unconscious, and perhaps conscience its voice, then perhaps not only dreams, but also truly living life, divine things and perfections, then perhaps divine things and perfections are known and understood as they are not when they are being sought after and practiced, but when they have been found and practiced.
Wow.
Something that I've experienced in my life. Here I'm going to give you two examples of writing. One was an analysis of a dream while I was on the verge of waking up. And the other one is just a thought about early waking up in the morning. Oggendgedagtes. Ergens op die uiterstes waar sig ophou en droom dryf, draai nag. Haar golwe breek die vlak, soen die kus, laat val haar swaar erfwaarts, vliedend en grensloos, haar liefdesasem roerend aan geboorte gee. Haar kleur klees skaam die dag. The following is a dream and it's written in English. I just would like to take away our photos, otherwise I can't see all the writing. There it is. I wake up in my dream. I know I am asleep. In a sea of drowning horses, only one young horse surfaced the sea of bodies, his nose barely visible. All the horses, including the young horse, are skinned. I see their muscles, I smell their flesh. It's the first time I smell in a dream. I realize this while I dream. It's a faint smell of aliveness. I touch my arms. It is as if I have no skin. I feel, sense every fiber. I think perhaps it's the linen covers. I take it off to test. My skin is alive as if scrubbed with a brush. In the twilight zone, I remember the Egyptians with their horses and chariots chasing the Israelites through the Red Sea. I remember the texts I read, memories about a horse, its rider and symbols. I remember notes on smell, touch and see. I linger in this realm of varied levels of awareness. I remember struggles of the past months, the hidden meaning of renewing the mind, the real meaning of a resurrected body. I woke up to find the following words. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. Frankel's words oftentimes provoke me in uncanny ways. Not to only just accept its meaning, but to question its meaning. Take, for example, the following. All freedom has a from what and a to what. The from what of man's freedom is his being driven, and the to what is his being responsible, his having conscious. Frankel's words imply a shift from the instinctual toward the spiritual. However, I question, what happens when the to what becomes the new from what? Perhaps the question can help to pave the way to ultimate meaning. To understand our selfhood, our personhood, I find, has nothing to do with wishful thinking. Sometimes it has all to do with believing and with losing the firm ground between the from what and the to what.
Wow. Wow.
Jy staan op uit die doderyk, nog stikkend van aardse liggaam, sê jy vir haar, moenie aan my raak en vir hom, vat aan my en voel. Die wanhopige klou aan die bekende, die wankelmoed van twyfel, vra met een, 'n losmaak en 'n greep. Die opgestane is nie die een wat jy ken nie, maar die een wat jy herken.
Wow.
The next share, I would say is sort of like the pinnacle of this assignment. It's the chapter on unconscious religiousness. Frankel says the following. If man's being responsible reaches down into an unconscious ground. How does this unconscious responsibleness come to the fore? He continues, inherent in man is a relation to transcendence and unconscious religiousness. On a not so ordinary day, I'm going to read this, and I've written it in English for my assignment. On a not so ordinary day, entangled in a divorce affair, washing my clothes, packing a suitcase to live in almost 30 years of married life, the deep that was calling to deep, the self that the self was searching for, materialized. One moment I was outside hanging the washing, the next moment I was flat on the carpet in the living room. In a lightning's moment, all of life as I knew it altered. When I stood up, I could discern the voice of not only the prior self, but also the voice of the transpersonal self, both sounding through with utmost clarity. I turned around, shed and dripping with pure sensory perception. I realized something extraordinary happened. The divine world broke through to my world. The ineffable does not ask to be understood, as there is nothing to be understood. It leaves no room for doubt. When I stood up from the carpet, there was no need to find out what to think, believe, or do. I turned around and threw away 40 years of writing that possessed me. I experienced an utter freedom and absolute stillness in the center of life's raging storm. The ineffable signified the end of an inner spiritual journey. I say this with carefulness. One cannot go deeper than the deepest. Thus, my writing does not implore and probe to understand the indescribable. Rather, I would say, my writing is a practice to write perhaps from a new consciousness. Frankel's words. And perhaps now, instead of using the word search, I can describe my writing as a movement towards a clearer vision, towards the person, towards the situation, from what? That will bear the one thing necessary for the two what. Are you still okay holding up with my voice?
We're stunned. That's what we're stunned. Yeah.
So the next pieces of writing shares this ineffable, indescribable happening. Het ek gevind. Vandag hoor ek dat eerlikheid 'n verhouding verdiep, laat groei. Maar het ek gevind, eerlikheid kan 'n verhouding se tyd veroordeel, tot doodse verdriet vasnaal aan die balk van waarheid. Bloot, geen voorhou. Tog, die onthou, mirakelagtige suiwer om eer te baar aan die ander. 'n Naaktheid met 'n oneie te omgeef. En het ek gevind, die genade vergeef toe die ander.
Wow.
Te waarheid die dag se gebed met 'n tweesnydende swaard vel, die dag se witlende klief pretensie blootlaat en 'n jy herrys, nie verneder, nie beskaam, net herken. Gooi af dit wat besit en rol die doodskleed eenkant. Toe opgestane vel sin gewaar, moenie aan my raak, dit pyn, 'n wording, dit pyn. Toe bede met hede enig, toe begeef jy die ander, jouself. Right, I'm wrapping up with the last 3 chapters. It was actually quite a task, and I think many places I've ventured off the map that I've set for myself in this assignment. What is the aim of logotherapy? The aim of psychotherapy, especially psychoanalysis, has been secular confession. The aim of logotherapy especially existential analysis, is medical ministry. Which signposts can guide me as logotherapist to walk this borderland between therapy and religion? I choose two. An awareness of the unconscious God present in the other. Why? The wisdom of our hearts know what being human is about. And to lead the other to consciousness of their responsibility. Why? The wisdom of our hearts knows what meaning is all about. However, as a student of logotherapy, I'm actually challenged. Where do I see myself in this field of logotherapy? I'm not a psychotherapist. I'm not a clergywoman. Perhaps I hover at the entrance of the borderland. Perhaps I'm waiting, hiding somewhere for something to unfold, waiting for something to unfold. Perhaps I just need to say to myself, Sonja, get up. You have a job to do. The next poem just tells me, maak woorde saak. Wat maak saak? As jou hart aangeraak is, verdwyn ou betekenisse. Die lewende lê die dooie woord vir woord uit. Verander stil die fondasie, die land van erf. Steen vir steen stapel jy die hoeksteen, die nuwe tuiste met tempeldeur wyd arm oop. Terja, actually, in the introduction, Terja touched on this chapter's notes that I've given. That what is the aim of logotherapy? Just a quick repeat. Logotherapy's aim is to assist us to translate the wisdom of our hearts into living life the way we are meant to live. Do we as therapists know how to translate the wisdom of our hearts into our own lives? And to repeat what Terja said, we cannot give what we do not have. We can only see in others what we have first seen in ourselves. So logotherapy asks for a research into our own lives. Instead of just listening to ideas, we need to think from them. In being and doing, we obey. We hear again, we understand, and the will to a new meaning arises.
Wow.
This poem, translation from, I must remember what, he was a Spanish poet and a writer who received the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1956. He wrote a poem called Oceans. I just called it Beken. 'n gevoel het ek. My boot het iets getref. Daaronder in die diepte, 'n groot iets en niks gebeur. Niks, stilte, golwe. Niks te gebeur? Of het alles gebeur en staan ons nou stilweg in die nuwe lewe?
Ja.
As I stand at the entrance of the next moment's gate, I am reminded when knowledge gives up, the torch is passed on to faith. That which remains unknown or remains to be known happens as faith shifts to seeing. On the day I left, I actually typed the words my husband, but on the day I left our 30 years of married life, I was drenched with an unspeakable, indescribable sadness. All I could hear in the center of the storm were the following words. You don't need a lot of equipment. You are the equipment. When faith's torch lights the way, the trust is to walk the way. This writing is just something different that I'm also delving into exploring, not just writing poetry, but writing short essays. Vroeg vanoggend, ek staan by die venster en sien jou stap oor die straat. Donker, rooibruin krulhare, 'n handsak gebondel onder jou linkerarm. Maar dis die tent wat my aandag trek. In jou regterhand omhoog, nat en wapperend in die wind. Jy hou dit vas soos 'n sandel. 'n Uitroep. Jy kyk vorentoe, dan links en dan regs. Jy doen dit stadig, asof jy wag vir iemand, vir iets. Ek kyk saam met jou, maar sien niks. Jy draai om, terug oor die straat van waar jy gekom het. Jou vorentoe, terug na dit wat was, na dit wat is. Wat het dit geverg om te op jou bondel te vat en jou vaandel omhoog te lig? Wat verg dit om vorentoe te gaan? Ek vra dit vir myself. And then I end with this poem. Op pad. Wit strepe skei een kant van die ander, letsels van wat was en is, dalk weer gaan wees, 'n genadetog van haltes mis, stoptekens en afdraaipaaie. Herinner my wanneer die teer my siel soul verbrand met rooi gesig gelig na die dors, diep buk, bakkant kniel in die skadu te ontmoet, die jy en die u gevleg in een op pad. We are on the road. This was the last piece. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your presence. I do appreciate this.
Sure. I just want to say this, and then I would love to hear comments of others. But I've never, ever had such an in-depth exposition of what actually happens in what is a final surrender to life itself, where all the boundaries go, where there are no divisions, no distinctions, just being absolutely at one with the other. It reminds me of the scripture, in him I live and move and have my being. That's the ultimate. In him I live and move and have my being. It's so away from our struggle to find, to search for, to make out, to understand. It's just a moment of that ultimate breakthrough, which we haven't researched, you know. Frankl spoke about it. That ultimate breakthrough that floods, it floods all of life, all the divisions, all the separations are gone. And it's so incredible when Frankl said that suffering we find the highest of meanings, that at the point of that great sadness that Sonja described when her husband asked her to leave. My God.
It was actually, we decided together to separate.
Okay, but you actually then left that 30 years of structure. Yeah. That it was at that moment, you know, when this great sadness overwhelmed you, that there was this breakthrough of the thou into the I, and this flowing together where you are just at one. Just a description of at oneness. You're the poetess. I grasp what you're saying, but I can't express it the way you do. So let's have some other comments, because I'm very keen, especially to see where we can take Sonja beyond this point, beyond the advanced.
Terea, may I start by saying a huge congratulations to Sonja and to you for facilitating that path that she's gone on. Sonja, in your basic training, I was your basic training trainer, your basic course. A lot of what you have expressed tonight, you said there were hints of your poetry in the basic training program. And even then, I was feeling that has such such a long road to go, and I see that you've traveled that road and you've expressed it and you've birthed it into something huge and something fantastic. And frankly, I'm a bit stunned because what you've produced here is a work of art, an absolute work of art. And Terea, I want to say to you that having taken Sonja, having been with her from the basic training through to where she is now, is a testament to your capacity to allow people to be and to become who they really are. And we all appreciate that. So well done, Sonja and Terea.
Thank you, Connie.
Terea, if you would allow me a few words. Sonja, firstly, apart from the logotherapy, to hear Afrikaans as it should sound.
Yes.
Dis hoe Afrikaans mos moet klink, né? It is heartwarming. And it is, yeah, I can go on for a long time, but I know it's 7 o'clock. I do think that it's the beginning of great things. I do think that through poetry, we all know Elizabeth Abers and, Jan Arabi and Breitenbach and all the great people. And now we love to listen to their poetry and how deeply it can affect your life. Now, I'm sure you know Bos from Chris Barnard and the impact that it has on whenever I get lost or whatever, I read Bos from Chris Barnard. Because apart from the beautiful poetry, it speaks to your soul. How does that get to logotherapy? That's the thing, is you can touch people's souls and you can bring logotherapy to people through beautiful words and wisdom. And it's more than just words, it's things that you can read again and again and again, like Bos. You can read it again and again and again, and you can get new meaning in that. And logotherapy, as we know, is our tool that we help ourselves and that we help other people to find the meaning for themselves. So I think this is absolute great potential, and I'm particularly about the time that's stopping us, but I do think this needs publication, Sonja. And please don't stop with the advanced course, Terea. I'm putting up my hand. I'd love to work with Sonja in the professional part and take this further, because we owe it to our people out there. We owe it to everybody that this should see the light, and this should really this can guide people to find their meaning. It doesn't tell you what to do; it gets you thinking, and that's what our job is. So Sonja, baie geluk. Baie geluk. Baie dankie. Baie dankie.
Dankie.
Luister, ons het tyd tot 7:30. Nie dat ons so lank hoef aan te hou nie, but there's time for more comments. Yeah. Yes, Sean.
Sonja, amazing. I want to get inside of your brain. So I have a couple of questions for you, and you'll know more about me when you go in the future. My question is, to take this further, is that we have the philosophy of this. I want to know, do you ask questions? Do you question things? And then you put that out there as my first question. My second question is, are there images that you visualize and then you're able to put it down into writing? So in other words, is this visualization like you say in your dream, but when you write and you create these beautiful pieces, do they come from images? My third observation is you don't specifically talk about the noetic dimension. You don't specifically talk about those basic logotherapy principles that Frankl talks about, the oncology. And then I just want to share something very quickly with you that could go further, and it's not for discussion now. It's very simple that in terms of quantum neuroscience, we have entanglement. An entanglement of the human brain and its neural pathways is related to this consciousness that erupts. And the fourth thing that I do want to say to you is, have you considered going beyond existentialism into long-termism? Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Your what was your first question? I remember the rest. What was the first one?
Our question is, do you ask questions? Do you question things?
I actually did answer that. I ask questions. Yes. I question life, but not from a point of what's wrong, but from a question of I would like to know more. Show me life. Show me. I'll just answer as I remember your questions. I think my poetry, my writing happens in the noetic dimension. It also happens in life's dimension. I would get up in the morning, drink a cup of coffee. Where I stay at the moment, I live in a very busy corner, and there's always homeless people below my window. The lady with the tent was a homeless lady. So I would see that and I would sit down with it, because life is asking me a question. And what is my response to that? To write, to make meaning of this, but also to go out and talk to that lady. Have I considered, so to answer your question about visual and about non-visual, I think it's everything. It will be something that I read. I will read all Meister Eckhart's sermons, but I will not copy his words. I will try and find what is the meaning of the words for me now at this moment. And your last question, I don't know what is your definition of long-termism? It sounds like being terminally.
No, not at all.
So what is just define that word for me?
Okay,
no, just define that. No, just define that word for me. Long-termism.
Okay, long-termism is what happens for the future. In other words, are we prepared? Are our generations prepared for the future? In simple terms, have we prepared them? In very simple terms. So we have existentialism in terms of mankind, but are we prepared and are we ready for this?
Yes. When we're ready for the moment, we're ready. Life gives us moments. My question is, am I ready for this moment?
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. That does not take my responsibility away for the tomorrow, all right? I'm not just saying be here now, but what I'm saying is, are we ready really for the now? Because only then will we be ready for the next moment.
It looks as if you wanted to say something, Mark.
Yes, so Sean, have you finished? And
yes, thank you very much. She answered very well. That's what I kind of expected, but I wanted to dig into her brain. Thank you.
Hi, Sonja. We haven't met before.
Yeah,
so a great
hi.
privilege
Nice
to
meeting you.
To meet you and to experience your work. I would just like to start by repeating what Isak said. Ek het lanklaas sulke mooi Afrikaans gehoor. And what is so wonderful as well is that it's so seldom that you come across a poet who is able to read their own work well.
Yeah.
And you have both such a beautiful voice and a wonderful, simple way of interpreting your poetry, lifting it off the page for us with your voice. I mean, Coral, I don't want to speak for you, but as someone who doesn't understand Afrikaans, deeply, I'm sure that you captured that you understood a lot of the essence of the poetry simply by how Sonja read it. So that for me is that absolute connection of instrument, in this case, the voice with the noetic dimension. And for me, what you captured so beautifully in this project is that page in Man's Search for Ultimate Meaning, which I return to time and time again, so much so that my book just always falls open on that page. It's where Frank talks about the spiritual unconscious being more artistic than the conscious. And this aligns very much with my own work. I have a background in theatre and the arts, and my own work is around creativity, imagination, visualization as tools for the process of healing. And there's just so much potential in this. What I'd like to say is I think that this project on its own, if I came along and I didn't understand what spirituality was, I would understand it now.
Yes.
Because I think what happens, and you've been asked several questions about your creative process and how conscious it is, and do you ask questions, do you imagine things? And I can feel how these words flow out of you from the spiritual unconscious, and that they are they are the result of a deep connection with an emotional truth. Just looking at the journey through the poetry, I was fascinated to see early on, words like vervolgwoorde, achtervolging, things about judgment, and almost had a sense of being locked in, and then how the images open out, and the sea and the movement of the sea. And so I think that this must have been a profound experience for yourself. It reminded me of what we do in the beginner's course, where we do that. That self-analysis and get to know ourselves on a deeply spiritual level. And this is just a highly advanced version of that, I think, which must have been a profound journey for you. But I think also for anybody reading it, I think we would understand how our connection to the beauty of art, to the deep meaning contained in words, in the way words are juxtaposed, how that speaks to us deeply on a human level that we shouldn't analyze too deeply. The one thing that I found also very interesting that I thought about from a practical application of logotherapy, we've done a series of talks with the intermediate students, I think it is, and the advanced students also about dream analysis recently. And if the way you create your poetry is kind of similar to your dreams, in that it springs from this noetic well with not that much consciousness around it, are we not, is it nie dat jy jou gedagtes in die diepste the deep understanding of your spirit, of yourself, word ontbloot, daai woorde that come from that depth. And so I'm just thinking about, how wonderful it would be for you to, give somebody, a logotherapy client, something of the skill. You could teach them how to write. You could pass on some of that skill, and in so doing, supply them with both obviously creative and experiential values, but also that writing, what they write, could kind of serve as an analytical tool, that in the same way we might analyze dreams from a logotherapeutic perspective, that we analyze writing, which springs from the depths of the spiritual unconscious, as Frankl says, could be a very powerful therapeutic tool. So thank you very much. It's a very, very beautiful work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you, Mark. Oops.
And a fascinating feature that I don't want us to miss is what you portrayed so beautifully, that the division between the instinctual and the spiritual disappeared. It's really the spiritualization of all of being, even physical being. That meaning is taken from the depths to the depths, where this kind of distinction disappears. And we just become beautiful as humans, we are earthly creatures, with everything of the animal also operative in us. But it's as if we take that animal that create a creature life and bring it to a level in our humanity that brings a wholeness into being. It's not like there's an animal, here's a human being, it's just like a wonder at looking at everything is filled with wonder. And it's that kind of feeling of oneness with whatever you see and whatever you experience, and that opens you up also creatively to experience the beauty and wonder and glory of life in the smallest things, in a little ant running across the table. Or, it's or a leaf that opens up, and you the wonder of it, So that is something also beautiful to explore, that kind of saturation of all of our being. Like you said, the spiritual comes into human form to transform it into a unity with itself. Anyway, Robert, het jy iets te sê in jou lieflike Afrikaans?
Ek het nie regtig 'n vraag of kommentaar in 'n sekere sin, maar eerder net 'n woord van dankbaarheid, dink ek, vir jou, Sonja, om hierdie met ons te gedeel het vanaand. What you have shared really, it speaks to us, it touches us, and in a sense, you also trusted us to share this with us, and thank you for that. It was really a wonderful experience. For me, myself, it was really amazing, and congratulations. It's well worth the time that we spent here today.
And I can kick myself that I said you didn't need to record it. Damn it.
No, we did record it in the end, Dr.
Oh, we did.
Recorded.
Thank you. Oh, great. Because I think
You
it
actually
really
did
needs
say
to
in the
be shared.
beginning, you did say, okay, let's start the recording. So
I'm very grateful. That's wonderful. I think that some of the other trainers would love to listen to this. All right. And Sonja, we'll be talking. It seems that we all are agreed that you can't stop here. That actually it's just a very in-depth journey that you would be taking further, and it will be carried into what you will be doing in the professional course. But the whole aim of the professional course would be to, like Isaac said, to bring your work to be heard, not just by us. In other words, to have it published, and to get such a digbundel. So a digbundel, maar is meer as 'n digbundel. It's a logotherapeutic work of art that you want to bring these deep life's messages over to whoever is going to read it. And like Isaac said, would be pouring over again and again and again. Those poems of yours, I can just read again and again and again, and it just opens me up every time I read it. So we have to go on with you. How do you feel about that?
My last poem was called Op Pad.
Yes, wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes,
Oh.
no, thank you. Thank you for this trust. Thank you.
Okay.
Maria, my
may I ask
my
you-
hands. Sorry,
Oh,
carry on,
sorry.
Mark.
No, I just wanted to ask, would you be happy to share copies with that? Because I think we would all love to be able to read the poems. They're so dense and they went by really quickly. I know I would love to be able to sit with them and,
Yes.
and read them properly.
Yes, I can. At the moment, I actually took your advice, Terea, and I've given some of the poetry to someone so that I can maybe just fine-tune a few things, because I do have other writings as well. But if you would like these poems, by all means, I will do that.
Well, you've got the document that you sent to me. You can send that
Yes.
entire document as is. to
Yes.
all of
Yes.
us here
I
tonight?
can do
Okay.
that. I can do that.
Okay.
And
Thank
Terea,
you.
if I might
Yes.
just add one thing, what
Yes.
Mark said was very interesting about understanding Afrikaans. I didn't need to understand the words to understand the poem and to get the feel of it.
Wow. Fantastic.
Yes, of course,
Thank
it's
you.
good to understand the words, but it was interesting to not understand them and feel what they were saying. So well done, Sonja.
Thank you, Carol.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, everybody.
Sorry,
Good
before you
night.
go, I
Yeah.
want to just say a couple of things. First of all, Terea, I'd like to put up my hand as well to assist in any way that I can with her professional course. That's the one
Okay.
thing.
All
The
right.
second thing I want to ask Sonja publicly is I would like to tap into your mind, and I was wondering if you'd be willing to be one of my research subjects in terms of being very serious. Because this is something that I know there are some things I'd like to learn about it. And if you'd be willing to, I'm making a public appeal to you in terms of joining me in terms of research project. Thank you.
Okay. Well, the two of you can discuss it afterwards. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for.
All right. I think that you'll have quite a number of people who would like to be your trainers. Thank God I haven't got the time so it could make place for others. But I'm looking forward to the end result. That's for sure. Okay. Good night, everybody. Thanks for
Thank you so
coming.
much. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.